Good morning, universe. How are you? How is everybody doing? Wow, pretty good 24 hours. Really been working. My 4 days of doing other paperwork and jazz starts today, which is Friday, January 19th, 2012. 2012? Wow, I'm a year behind on this vlog is taking a year to post. No, Friday, January 18th, 2013. Okay, so my brain was wrapped around what I'm doing my topic on today. Okay, so here is the topic for today, and it's off of politics, off of social commentary. This is a fun vlog. This is a fun vlog because one of my favorite YouTubers, a guy named Trevor on Trev's Chan 2. I'll put the description down below if you want to check out some of his videos on The Walking Dead. If you're a fan of that show like I am, he does a lot of in-depth videos on The Walking Dead. Really entertaining, has a pretty good perspective, in my opinion, on some of the stuff that's going on in the show. And also he reads the comics, which is what Walking Dead is based off of, or inspired by at this point, rather. And so he's a pretty good source for all kinds of Walking Dead information. He also does Game of Thrones and things like that, but Walking Dead is the one I've seen most of recently. So, aside from that, he did a prediction video about what was going to happen in the second half of Season 3 of The Walking Dead, which premieres February 10th here in the U.S., and I decided that I would do a similar thing. Now, the episode titles that he listed that I'm going to share with you as well were posted to zaptoit.com. It does not mean they're absolutely the exact episode titles, though they are, I think, probably a pretty good indication, primarily because if you looked on IMDb before the episode titles were posted to Zaptoit, they actually did list This Sorrowful Life as episode 14, which is what it is in this list as well. If you did not know, Walking Dead Season 3 has a total of 16 episodes, so it's almost the same length as both Season 1 and 2 combined, which was 19 total. So 16 for this season. We've already gotten through 8. The last one, I think, was Made to Suffer. Is that right? I think that was the last one. So anyways, we're going to start with episode titles, and I'll tell you as I go along what I think is going to happen in each episode. So the first one is called The Suicide King. I believe this is the episode where there will be a big story arc revolving Merle and Daryl, who are currently being faced off by the governor in their arena where they have a fight to the death situation, which you see in the trailer. If you've seen the trailer for the new the season's second half, there's a part where the governor says fight to the death. So I think he's going to have Daryl and Merle fight. While this is happening, Rick sends Maggie and Glenn back to the prison because there's no way Glenn could help in this situation, and Maggie helps him back to the prison while Rick, Oscar, and Michonne go back in to rescue Daryl. What happens as a result of this is, I believe that they do save Merle and Daryl, and I believe Merle helps in this situation for them all to escape because he's trying to protect Daryl. And at some point, Oscar, who is one of the convicts, he gets killed. I think he gets killed in this episode. I don't know the graphic novel, so I don't know if he exists in the graphic novel still to this day or not, or the comics rather. I do know that they killed off Sophie earlier, so they could easily kill off Oscar or any other characters. I think it's kind of open game except for Rick and Carl. So anyway, I believe Oscar will get killed, and they will rescue Merle and Daryl. So it'll be the four of them heading back to the prison in the end of the episode. With other things happening, that'll be the major arc of the episode. Let's put it that way. Episode 2 is called Home. Oh, and I should have mentioned, I do believe that at some point in this episode, The Suicide King, that Andrea will end up leaving with Daryl and Rick and the group. I think she'll go back to the prison with them. Even if it's just morbid curiosity as to what's going on. She's not going to let anything happen to Daryl because Daryl never did anything to hurt her, and she may still be curious about them. So I think she will end up leaving with them in this episode to go back to the unit. Either that or she will go to the prison in the beginning of the next episode, because I do believe she's going to encounter them in the home episode. Is really going to evolve a lot around Andrea, which is the next episode, episode 10 of season 3. It's called Home, and I believe it will be revolving around Andrea and her returning to the group and seeing what's happened, find out what happened to Shane, find out what happened to Lori, T-Dog, all those kinds of people, and it will be about her experience going back to that group of people. Whether it's bitterness or whatever, I think it's going to really be a character-driven episode. Also, you'll see Tyrese's group getting more associated with Rick in this episode. That'll be the episode where, if you saw in the trailer, Tyrese says something like anything to contribute. I think that's where Rick and Tyrese start to communicate and figure out how they stand with them as a group. Meanwhile, Michonne is also finding her place. In the comics, from what I understand, I think that Michonne and Tyrese got involved at some point. I'm not sure if that happened, or is it? I think it's Morgan actually who got involved. Incidentally, offhand, Trev does mention in his predictions that he thinks Morgan, who was a big character from season 1, episode 1, will come back. I do not believe that Morgan will come back in this season. He's doing another TV show right now. I don't know what his name is. So I don't believe he'll be back in this season. Anyway, so that's season 2. The major arc is about Andrea. Episode 11 is called, what was it? I have them memorized too. I Ain't No Judas. And that is going to be when Rick poses with Andrea, whose side are you on, who are you with? Because it's going to be both about Merle and about Andrea. Whose side are you on? Are you with us? Or are you standing with him? You know, they tried to kill us. They tried to kill Daryl. How do you feel about this, Merle? How do you feel about this, Andrea? It's going to be really about a battle between, or the question Rick poses to the two of them, saying, whose side are you on? Who are you with? So I think that in that episode is when you're going to see ultimately Merle probably decides to stick with Rick's group, and Andrea probably is kind of on the fence about who she's going to go with. I don't think ultimately she's going to end up staying with the governor, but I do think it's possible that she's going to go back to the governor into the end of this episode and try to talk to him and see if she can work something out. So I do think that'll be the end. That'll be what the primary episode of episode 11, which is called I Ain't No Judas, is all about. Episode 12 is called Clear. I think this is going to be a really interesting episode because I think that this is where Andrea talks to the governor and there is some sort of a pseudo agreement created that he says we will not attack. We will not fight them. We're not have to hurt anybody, even though we know that's garbage, because he wants all the power. He will say, I'll make a pact. We'll leave them alone if they'll leave us alone. And he kind of tries to work with Andrea and keep Andrea happy because he's still, he's got a ticking hornball for her. So I think he'll try to create the illusion that they're going to stand together. I don't think that and I think she's going to end up staying with him ultimately at that point, basically saying she has a new life here, she likes it in Woodbury, it's a different environment, blah 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 blah, or she'll be questioning at the end of the episode. In the next episode, which is episode 13, called A Pale Horse, I think that's where you start to see the battle between kind of Merle's situation with Rick and how, it's difficult because Merle does not take orders well from Rick. He's still got that chip on his shoulder. It's kind of a ticking time bomb of sorts. And you see that sort of situation with them. Meanwhile, you see Andrea is discovering what's going on with the governor, and she's starting to really doubt or find out more information about what's really going down there. Maybe from Michonne, because Michonne saw all the bodies that were destroyed from those soldiers. And she really starts to question really who the governor really is and whether she can trust him herself. That'll be episode 13. Episode 14, or no, is that episode 13 or 14? I think I got off numbers, but the next episode is Oh no, the next episode is episode 14. It's was that right? Oh no, it's episode 14. Yes, sorry, excuse me, my counting is off. Episode 14 is called "The Killer Within Part 2." Now, if you know from the show, Killer Within Part 1 essentially was where you discovered that Shane went over the line and started to and killed and left Otis for bait when they were at the schoolhouse getting supplies for Carl's injury. I believe this one is going to be the explosion between Merle and Rick inside the prison. I believe it's going to result in a couple of things happening. I almost want to say it'll be a little bit of a murder mystery, but I can't guarantee it. Where you're wondering who's really doing the killing, if it's Merle or someone else. I think ultimately Merle's going to end up being involved in it, and the key person in it. And Axel's gonna get killed in that episode, I think. I think it's possible that Carol will get killed in that episode. I think it's possible that Herschel will get killed or severely injured in that episode. And then Merle will get killed in that episode. So I think there's up to 5 people that will die. Axel, Merle, Herschel, Carol, and someone in Tyrese's group that he brought over. That there's up to 5 or 6 people who could get killed in this episode. And it's specifically revolving around Rick's group, which leads into episode 15, which is called This Sorrowful Life. I think it's the aftermath. If Herschel does not die in the previous episode, this is the one where he finally dies, because he's kind of been almost like a secondary father figure type of person to Rick. So I think this is the one where he potentially, if he hasn't died yet in Killer Within, he will die in This Sorrowful Life. And that's where they're all facing the aftermath. Daryl lost Merle. Daryl lost Carol. Daryl and Carol. Anyway, so Daryl lost Merle. He lost Carol. Maggie and Glenn and Beth lose Herschel. Rick loses Herschel. Tyrese loses probably his sister or his daughter, whoever that woman is with him. He loses the other people in his group too. And Andrea is, starting. It has really discovered at this point, if we see her at all in this episode, if she's not back with Rick's group, I don't predict we'll see her in this episode. If she is, then I think she's discovered who the governor really is. And at the end of the episode, she discovers that the governor is really bad, and she goes back to Rick's group to warn them about what's going on at the very end of the episode, because she knows something bad's about to happen. Which leads to episode 16, the final episode of season 3, Welcome to the Tombs. And that is the governor opens fire, and the episode is all about the battle between the Woodbury governor and his guys at Woodbury and Rick and the remaining group, and can they pull it together to fight off and stop the governor from destroying their life there. And it's going to end, I think, with the battle, and you see all these people get injured or whatever, and that's where it's going to end the season. So those are my predictions for the final half of season 3 of The Walking Dead. If you have your own predictions, please feel free to leave a video response below, or to leave comments or questions or whatever. Thanks so much, Universe. I really appreciate your watching, any views you give, any support you provide, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the world. That's what it's here for.